Is it too much to ask for a grandchild? She would sneer whenever Faith entered the room. What good is a wife who cannot give her husband a child? Once upon a time, in a quiet town, lived a young woman named Faith. Known for her kind heart, Faith had grown up in a family deeply rooted in Christian beliefs. She was devoted to her faith and carried herself with grace, spending her days helping her neighbor and teaching Sunday school at her church. From a very tender age, she was committed to keeping herself. She believed that her purpose was to serve God and live a life of purity and kindness. Her faith was her strength, her guide, and her joy. One day, Faith met a man named Samson. He was strong, wise, and shared her commitment to living a life that honored God. Their connection was undeniable, and it wasn't long before they both knew they wanted to spend their lives together. The wedding day was beautiful, filled with family, friends, and loved ones. Faith felt like her life was a dream. She had married a man she loved deeply, and they both looked forward to building a family together. But as time went on, Faith found herself waiting for something she had always dreamed of: a child. The months turned into years, and every passing day brought her hopes higher, only for them to be dashed each time. Despite their prayers and patience, 5 long years went by without a child. This period weighed heavily on Faith's heart, yet she continued to cling to her faith, trusting that God has a plan. However, there was another source of pain that began to grow like a shadow in Faith's life: her mother-in-law. Samson's mother, a woman with a fierce personality, had been eager to see grandchildren. At first, her hints were subtle, suggesting herbal remedies or advising Faith on traditional practices. But when 5 years passed and Faith was still without a child, her mother-in-law's patience ran out. Is it too much to ask for a grandchild? She would sneer whenever Faith entered the room. What good is a wife who cannot give her husband a child? These words cut deeply. Faith did her best to ignore them, but the constant reminders and judgment from her mother-in-law were a heavy burden. Despite the support of her husband, who would defend her whenever he could, Faith's spirit began to wear thin. The once gentle, joyful woman began to feel the weight of shame and inadequacy. One evening, as she lay in bed, Faith whispered to her husband, "Dear, maybe God doesn't want me to be a mother." But Samson took her hand, his voice soft yet filled with conviction. "My love, our God is the God of the impossible. We will continue to trust Him no matter how hard it seems. He has a reason, even if we can't see it now." Those words stayed with Faith. She began to immerse herself in prayer, pouring out her soul before God. Every morning, she would rise early, sit by the window, and talk to God about her pain, her desires, and her dreams. She fasted, prayed, and clung to the promises she read in the Bible. One verse in particular gave her hope: 1 Samuel 1:27. "For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition which I asked of him. Faith made a promise to herself that she would remain steadfast even in her sorrow. She found ways to serve others, volunteering at orphanages and caring for children in her community. In those moments, she felt a bit of the joy that she had imagined motherhood would bring. Her mother-in-law's thoughts continued, but Faith's resilience grew. She no longer let the harsh words consume her. Instead, she responded with kindness. Even when it hurt, she treated her mother-in-law with respect, hoping that her patience would one day lead to peace. Then, one quiet morning, after years of waiting, Faith noticed something different. She felt a gentle stirring, a life that could only be described as miraculous. After a doctor's visit, her joy could no longer be contained. She was pregnant. The news filled Faith's heart with a happiness she had almost forgotten existed. Her husband rejoiced, and even her mother-in-law, upon hearing the news, embraced her with tears of joy and relief. Faith's pregnancy became a symbol of God's faithfulness. Friends, families, and even strangers in the town marveled at her journey. Faith continued her quiet devotion, thanking God for the gift she had waited so long to receive. When her baby finally arrived, a beautiful and healthy child, Faith knew that every moment of pain and every tear had led her to this precious blessing. She named her child Samuel, meaning God has heard, for she wanted everyone to know that her prayers had not gone unanswered. She knew that the waiting had not been in vain. It had deepened her faith, strengthened her marriage, and allowed her to experience the incredible joy of trusting in God's perfect timing. Her mother-in-law, once harsh and bitter, became a devoted grandmother, finally understanding the power of faith's unwavering trust in God. Faith's story became an inspiration to many in her town, and from that day on, whenever someone asked about her child, she would smile and say, "This is Samuel, the child I prayed for, the child God has given me." Thank you all for watching and listening. Please do well to subscribe, like, and share the story. And for more interesting story, keep watching. Bye.